King David's life was a tapestry woven with threads of triumph and tragedy. In the 16th chapter of 2 Samuel, we find the aging king fleeing from his own son Absalom, who has instigated a rebellion to usurp the throne. David's heart is heavy with grief, not only from the betrayal but also from the knowledge that this family strife is a consequence of his own past sins. As David and his loyal followers ascend the Mount of Olives, a man named Ziba appears, claiming to be a servant of Saul's grandson, Mephibosheth. Ziba brings provisions for the fleeing party, cunningly suggesting that Mephibosheth has sided with Absalom. David, weary and heartsick, believes Ziba's lies and rashly grants him all of Mephibosheth's property. This encounter with Ziba serves as a stark reminder that times of crisis expose the true nature of those around us. It also highlights the human tendency to make hasty judgments when overwhelmed by grief and uncertainty. The journey continues, and David's woes are compounded when a man named Shimei from the house of Saul emerges from the hillside. Shimei hurls insults and stones at David and his men, accusing David of being a murderer and a usurper. Shimei's venomous words cut deep, reminding David of his past sin with Bathsheba and the subsequent death of her husband Uriah. Despite the provocation, David refuses to retaliate. When his nephew Abishai asks permission to silence Shimei permanently, David responds with remarkable restraint. He acknowledges that Shimei's curses may be God's judgment for his past sins. He chooses to endure the humiliation with humility and trust in God's ultimate justice. David's response to Shimei's vicious attack is a powerful example of forgiveness and submission to God's will. Even in the face of undeserved hatred, David chooses to trust in God's plan and to bear his suffering with dignity. Meanwhile, Absalom arrives in Jerusalem, greeted by cheering crowds who have been deceived by his charisma and false promises. He consolidates his power by seeking counsel from two advisors, Ahithophel, known for his shrewdness, and Hushai, who remains loyal to David but pretends to support Absalom. Ahithophel, recognizing the need for decisive action, advises Absalom to publicly humiliate David by taking his concubines. This wicked counsel is followed, fulfilling a prophecy Nathan delivered to David years earlier as a consequence of his sin with Bathsheba. Absalom's decision to follow Ahithophel's advice proves to be a grave misstep. It not only alienates potential supporters but also reveals the depths of his depravity. Ahithophel's cunning plan, however, will soon be countered by Hushai's secret loyalty to David, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation between father and son. Throughout this tumultuous chapter, we witness echoes of another king who would one day face betrayal, mockery, and unjust suffering. Like David ascending the Mount of Olives, Jesus would also traverse that same path, weighed down by the grief of betrayal and the weight of the sins of humanity. The treachery of Ziba finds its parallel in Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Shimei's relentless cursing foreshadows the insults hurled at Jesus by the crowds and religious leaders during his trial and crucifixion. Even Absalom's triumphant entry into Jerusalem, hailed as a false Messiah by the cheering crowds, prefigures the crowds who would initially welcome Jesus into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday only to turn against him days later. The events of 2 Samuel chapter 16, though tragic, are not without purpose. They serve not only as a cautionary tale about the consequences of sin and the fickleness of human loyalty, but also as a powerful foreshadowing of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. David's suffering, his unjust persecution, and his unwavering faith in God all point towards a greater king who would one day bear the sins of the world and triumph over death itself. The parallels between David's story and Jesus' mission are undeniable, reminding us that God often uses the trials and tribulations of his people to reveal his greater plan of redemption. As we reflect on the events of this chapter, let us remember that even in our darkest moments, God is with us, working all things together for the good of those who love him. The long shadow of the cross falls upon every page of Scripture, reminding us that hope and redemption are always possible, even in the face of betrayal, suffering, and death. Are you ready to continue? Just click here and come along with me to the next chapter.